Hi there, my name is Tim Alberg and I am the Assistant Director of Adult and Graduate Enrollment here at Elmhurst College, and we're here to take you through a little presentation about our Organizational Leadership and Communication program. I'm sitting here with Dr. Sarah Strom-Case, who is the Director of this program. Hi Sarah.
Hello.
And any opening thoughts you'd like to share with the intro slide?
Well, one of the things that we considered in developing this program is that leadership is a skill that can be learned. And so all the courses kind of develop and foster those skills that can help you become a better or more efficient leader. And what we look at is moving beyond management skills and functions to those actual communication behaviors that are part of leadership.
All right. So essentially, what is organizational leadership and communication? Can you define it? I mean, I know it's a program here at Elmhurst College. We're talking about an accelerated major that works towards helping a student complete their bachelor's degree. But what do you want to say about organizational leadership and communication that's different or sets this program out?
Well, one of the factors of the program is it is a communication degree. And if you've been kind of keeping tuned into what the degrees that are desired by employers right now, it happens to be communication. It's popping up a lot. So what you will see is not so much a focus on specific task-oriented skills, but on behavior and human-related skills. One of the neat things about communication is that we're looking at observable behaviors. You're looking at the way people talk to one another, what happens at the end or during those types of conversations or exchanges. Not even just, could be any kind of exchange, it could be a written exchange. What we don't look at is what causes people to think a certain way, what is their internal motivation. It's a very practical degree, which is applicable to a professional environment. In our workplaces, we can't often know what's going on inside someone's head, but we do know if someone sends an email a certain way, presents an idea in a certain fashion, what that effect of those ideas can be. We also take and spend some time looking at persuasion, not just persuasion on how to do it, but what happens and how to be aware of persuasive techniques, how we're using them and how we can be used by them.
All right. And it's a bachelor's degree completion program, and it's out of your department as the Communication Arts and Sciences, just to hit the bullets here in front of us. You just talked a little bit about the application of leadership practices and theories in the class and in the field. So I just wanted to kind of emphasize that this has a lot of professional aspects even within the program. It's not just a theoretical program, but it has a lot of field experience, so to speak. I don't know if that's the right term.
No, it is. It's the right term. The last class, now students throughout the program will be applying these ideas that they're learning in their class to their lives. So if a student is not working in a professional career or the career where he or she sees that that's where we're going to stay the rest of our lives, you can apply this to volunteer organizations. It can be an academic type of an organization if you're in a group or something like that. But the last class in this major is a capstone, and students will work with a social service organization, identify some communication issues within this organization, develop an implementation plan, including a budget, and then share that information in a professional presentation with the organization. Students walk away with a bunch of stuff. One, they get an opportunity to synthesize, it means put together all of the learning they've had up to this point. And then students also have a chance to identify problems in a real live environment. What we sometimes don't do as learners is have an opportunity to apply things where we don't know what the answers are. For example, if you take a case studies class.
That's the term I was looking for.
Oh,
case studies, not field experience.
But you do have a case studies class here. It runs at the same time or about the same time as the capstone. The nice thing about case studies, it's not a simple yes or no dichotomous answer. It's not easy. It's not necessarily true or false. So you have those subjective answers. In a case study class, there is still a recommended solution. With the capstone, you don't necessarily know what that recommended solution is until you create it. And that's what we experience in our workplaces. We don't know the answer all the time. So by working together as a group, you come up with this idea. Then you walk away with the chance of not only applying those ideas and all those concepts, but you also have a portfolio, which looks cool.
And works towards the professional preparation bullet on here.
Yep.
And just to highlight the liberal arts emphasis, that's something we do with Elmhurst College. We're a four-year liberal arts college, so we want you to have a really well-rounded education. So you're exposed to a lot of different fields and disciplines, or you have a very liberal, education here, a liberal arts education. So skills to develop, this is talking about some of the things that you cover. You've already kind of hit on some of this stuff in your opening description. But this sort of, to me, highlights a lot of what how I should say leadership applies to a professional environment. It's not a management degree, it's not a business degree, but it definitely shares, or at least gives you a lot of skills, obviously, you can develop that apply in those situations. Do you want to talk about some of these here?
Yeah, I'll talk specifically about these skills, some of the skills here, and then we have a little bit of a comparison to the business degree.
Oh, we'll get to that.
Yeah,
Right.
just in the next slide, but that's okay. We'll start here. When we think about diversity, one of the things that diversity in organizations is something that we love to think about in theory. But when it comes to practice, sometimes we don't necessarily reach out to people who are different from us. It has to do with a bunch of theories that go along with this, and one of them is how we like to be around people who are similar to us. So when we're looking at diversity in organizations, you'll, as students in this program, take an intercultural communication course, which doesn't necessarily we're all going to be friends, but it does help us to understand other people's perspectives. By taking the other person's perspective in communication exchanges, we can better understand how people are generating ideas, how people can solve problems and manage stress. So if we can understand in our diverse environments, it's not just the number of different people or different types of people there, it's the way different people think and act. When we look at this effective problem solving, one of the kind of underlying currents throughout this program is not just problem solving, but problem finding. Sometimes just solving the problem is too late.
Or at least being able to recognize what's causing it, those kinds of things.
Yeah, okay, you have a candle sitting in your house, and it's burning.
Right.
Now, we can say that candle caused the fire, and we would have solved the problem if the house catches on fire. But if we blow the candle out before leaving the house, we don't have the fire to begin with.
Right.
There's no problem to solve. So one of the things I like to encourage students to do is to look for what's not there and maybe kind of begin to identify and recognize other structures in an organization, like grapevines, to help identify where problems may come from. It's much more proactive, and organizations like that, it saves time, it saves money.
All right. You mentioned the grapevine thing. That's something you've talked about a lot when we talk about your program. That's essentially understanding what everybody's saying. I mean, is it officially, is it really just talking about the gossip, or is it bigger than that?
Yes. It's a loaded question. Yes,
Yeah,
it is. The concept of communication networks is something students learn about in organizational communication. So you've got formal networks, the way we say messages travel through the organization or external to the organization. And then we've got these types of communication networks which actually happen. How does work really get done? We have the ways we say it and then the ways it actually happens. So a grapevine could be a way of sharing gossip and rumors, or it could be a way of simply solving a problem quicker.
Or seeing which way the wind blows, or adapting to a changing workplace, because you don't know if the change is coming or if there's issues, or if they're not adapting. And encourage and motivation, just understanding everybody as people. Would that be a great way to say that?
Yeah, it would. And different people, there's a concept called communication immediacy, which isn't necessarily being friends with everyone you work with, but to understand the factors that do motivate someone to make a decision and to want to participate in a group or participate in solving a problem or to actually be engaged in their jobs. Everyone's different. Everyone looks at ways to be motivated differently. By paying attention to those individuals as individuals, a leader could really be better at encouraging positive behavior or discouraging negative types of behavior in the organization.
And you just mentioned leader, which is going to lead to what I thought we were talking about before.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's my fault. How different from a business degree is a communications program like this? Now, one of the things that I talk about often when I talk about this program is the difference between a leader and a manager. And I think understanding that difference, basically, in at least fundamental sense, explains the difference between these two programs. We have an accelerated business program. We have this accelerated organizational leadership and communication program. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
I think you kind of really succinctly summarized the concepts. If we look at, let's start the business side. A lot of the classes in that major are going to look at how business operations types of things, like accounting. You do have an accounting class in the other program. Maybe marketing. I'm not exactly sure of all the programs that are in there.
Finance, accounting, it's all the numbers. It's dealing with the spreadsheets and dealing with that kind of business math in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and I think the second point underneath the second bullet point is, it is. It's a quantitative analysis. So there's business theories and business practices, and there is some overlap. Business isn't considered a social science like communication is. Communication is a social science observing human behavior. Now, communications and social science is different from psychology because we're not looking at internal motivation. So we're not looking at the why, we're looking at the how. It's a very process-oriented degree. So we're looking at this human interaction. How does it happen from a receiver's perspective? How does it happen, and what's the effect on that person getting that message? And how is that going to impact the success in our organization? So we're looking at not just the quantitative analysis, which you do, but the qualitative analysis. What are the immediate types of behavioral responses from someone? How committed are individuals going to be to the organization? How can you persuade people from a human side instead of simply from a punitive type of perspective? I'm not saying business is punitive, but there are certain types of leadership skills that would recommend that leaders would take away things from an employee if someone didn't do what he or she wanted. And so that's not necessarily the way you would approach this.
And in some ways, this career field, so to speak, that would relate to this program, organizational leadership, one of those could possibly be like a human resources position. And I always think of like public resources, public representation or PR, the communication pieces that come with it. But it's more than that.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at our workplace organizations, and you find this to be true. The people with whom we work with, we seem to encounter at different times throughout our careers. Mm-hmm. We think it's a big world. It's really not. Yeah. So making these good business or professional relationships is something that we can carry on throughout our professional careers. If we think of LinkedIn and the number of people that connect to us on LinkedIn and how dense those communication networks actually become. Which brings me a little to this point on the internal and external systems. What we want to do is not just look at what's happening inside the organization, but what's happening external to the organization. That has to do with that problem-finding concept. Mm-hmm. So if we just say, okay, well, everything is great and rosy and we're happy within our organization, and we're not paying attention to what's happening outside of that, we won't be successful. So by looking at systems analysis, which is a process, if you want to look it up because you want to, we're looking at stuff that happens inside and stuff that happens outside. Mm-hmm. And that barrier, that wall needs to be, you need to let information come in and out. So that means interacting with clients and vendors and competitors in order to find out, the whole concept of benchmarking. It's a little old, but there's some stuff to it as well.
It's got to be a permeable wall.
Permeable.
So I referenced this a little bit because I'm always jumping ahead. I just can't wait to move to the next slide. Job outlook. Your skill set can get you ready for careers in all of these things, apparently. Would you say this is, apparently you created this. So this is definitely some of the things I was already talking about, like human resources, seems like the most obvious place. But marketing, it kind of shares, you don't get the market research skills in this, but you definitely get that kind of qualitative, that human reaction piece there, right?
Right, and students are coming to this program, many are coming in with an earned associates. So sometimes that earned associates is in one of these fields already, and then students are saying, I need to foster this other skill set in order to be more effective in my organization, to earn a promotion in my organization, to move to a different organization. I want to do something a little bit different. The students I'm working with right now are in human resources, training. There's one student who is an accountant.
Oh, wow.
Who thought this was a good fit for her. There are students in customer service. I think I'm trying to think through everybody, lots of customer service types of people. I think that's kind of hits where we are, because you talk to people.
Yeah, so. And it makes a lot of sense that this does serve as that kind of communication piece. And I've seen a lot of students who have interest in business, but maybe they don't love the financial piece as much. And this program seems to appeal to them, and those are kind of similar people that work in kind of a human resources. Or I've had a lot of people ask about the corporate trainer or trainee kind of piece, and this seems to lend itself pretty well to that.
Yeah, and we spend quite a bit of time in organizational communication actually talking about organizational assimilation. How do you get into the organization? Some of my areas of research I happen to love. How do you learn how to be there? And there's a lot of different ways we learn how to be in an organization. If one is a corporate trainer, it can make things easier for our new hire if you can say, hey, this is a shortcut to get to this type of knowledge, or these are the types of things to be wary of in a particular organization, because, not everybody's friendly.
So here's a little bit about some of the courses in this specific program that we have here. we're doing a couple tracks now with this program. So these courses would these be kind of your core curriculum or just some of your favorite classes?
Well, those just happen to be some of my favorite that are put up there. But there are other classes. There's a professional business and professional communication class that's not listed. Students do take, it's a little bit more than one course on accounting. It's broken, it's like 2 half courses.
So they do get some business sense in the program.
Well, and in order to create a budget and to read a budget and to understand what a budget is and to lead an organization when it comes to budgeting, you got to know accounting a little bit.
All right. Cool. And they got interpersonal communication in the workplace, small group, which I think is a standard bearer for any quality or communication program. Mm-hmm. Intercultural, of course, leadership and communication seems like the meat and potatoes. And then conflict and negotiation, I think, would be an inherently useful class for any kind of career, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and this is an applied conflict and negotiation course. It is theory-based, but it's not simply a discussion of theory. Sometimes when we are in negotiations, it's not going to go anywhere. And it's okay to cut bait. And it's determining when we should walk away from that negotiation and when we shouldn't. Sometimes conflict will say, it's time, everybody has to be a winner. Sometimes you're not. Sometimes there's a loser. So we need to figure out how do you resolve those types of things. What do you do after the conflict? It's important to be successful in order to move beyond that type of exchange if you want to interact with that person again in the future or organization.
That makes sense. So these classes, this is probably a good point to talk about the format of the program, right? Yeah. This is an accelerated program, but we have a lot of options in how it's administered now. The program is going to be a 2-night-a-week program if you go full-time. Is that right?
Yeah.
Over the course of a traditional semester. So starting in fall of 2013, it's going to be 2 evenings per week, unless you choose to go the slow route and take 1 8-week class at a time, right? Because I know there's this whole, the Harriet the Hare and Timmy the Tortoise, variant on how this program goes. So you have options. But if you go the full-time, 2 classes per every 8 weeks, you can finish the major in 3 semesters. Is that right?
I think that's right. Now, if students are interested, if you're interested, the Elmhurst College has this. Their general education program is integrated with other courses. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the courses in the major also qualify or meet general education requirements.
Well, that's really handy because an associate's degree usually dumps in for a lot of that, but there's still a lot of Elmhurst-specific requirements, and it's good to see that this program has what we call some tags and some other things in there too, right?
Right, and so what we were finding is that students, in order to meet those other requirements, were going to school 2 nights a week.
Right.
Anyway, so the classes do meet 2 nights a week. They meet for 3 hours if you're going for that full-time enrollment, if that's something that suits your lifestyle and everything like that. There's also some play in the program. If you can go for the first 8 weeks, you can only go 1 night, okay, but maybe the next 8 weeks you can go 2.
So you can shuttle between the 2 tracks, so to speak.
And I'm the advisor for the program, so it would be something we would work through together because I've written most of the courses and I teach a lot of the courses. I can help students determine what's a good fit for them academically.
So there's flexibility.
Yeah, there is some. There's certain requirements and objectives that need to be met in order to go into certain courses, but that's something that we can talk about and figure out what's the right thing for you.
Cool. So it's still probably doable to finish here in 2 years because you're going to have some other course requirements outside of the major. Just make sure everybody understands it's an accelerated program, but it doesn't include the whole everything about your degree. Usually transferring credit, do the accelerated program, you'll probably still have some other courses, which, by the way, if you're curious about the specifics, you can always set up a meeting with myself or another one of our staff to kind of figure out through the School for Professional Studies what of your credits are going to transfer over and all that kind of fun stuff, which kind of, we should have looked ahead. So there's your basic breakdown for what we were just talking about. It's also worth pointing out that there's multiple entry points for this program throughout the year, so you don't have to wait till just fall. You can start this program in spring. There is an online component, which doesn't mean the program is online, but it does mean that it's hybrid, so that you have, again, this whole thing was designed with working professionals in mind, although not exclusively.
I want to talk a little bit about the accelerated learning.
Oh, sure.
I've been doing this a long time. So one of the things that I like to do is to have certain requirements of assignments outside of class. So when students are in class, we're working together. So that's what the online component is for, to encourage students to check on supplemental materials or some other types of things outside of class. And when we're in class, we are truly doing the discussion, the lecture, the interaction that we need to do face-to-face.
The fun stuff.
Well, yeah. Also, I got my hands on some iPads. So we do use iPads in the classroom. They're great for personality assessments. If we have to do some impromptu research, students are able to record video.
Yeah, do everything.
Hey, here's an example of how you might resolve a conflict, and recorded it for you. I've had students walk around campus and do a nonverbal communication scavenger hunt, identifying nonverbal behaviors throughout the campus and taking pictures and bringing it to class and sharing it. Students are using these in their professional lives, so we need to use that type of technology in our academic lives as well. And so that's a way to accelerate the learning.
Oh, excellent. It's interactive and fun. So why us? This is just a quick little thing. Why Elmhurst College? I mentioned earlier on that we're a liberal arts college. We've been around since 1871, so we know we're doing pretty well. We're a small school, though. So this program, I think the cap is 24. I think it's as big as a class ever would get, but probably the average is closer to 12. It depends on the year, of course, and when you're starting the program. But small class size is a big part of what we do, whether it's in this program or in any of our standard gen ed classes or anything. We don't do lecture halls here. We don't have a lot of TAs here. And we're a Christian school. We're affiliated with the United Church of Christ, which doesn't mean you have to be. If you are, there's a scholarship for you for that. But it's a very welcoming, open-door rainbow church. And we do have a Christian requirement as part of our gen eds. But it's a very welcoming environment with about 3,300 students here. And I think approximately, at least at the point of this recording, 600 or so of those students are adult students. We've been working with adult students in some capacity here since 1949. So back then it was actually novel to be a night school. Now everybody has it, so it's not really that big of a deal. But we try to apply the evening class. We try to apply flexibility. We're a very student-centered school. We can't say that enough. Dr. Strong-K's already alluded to the advanced learning techniques that we do, both in class and online, utilizing iPads and the latest technology, and hybrid learning. But it's a supportive environment as well as a challenging learning environment, so that it's hard to fall through the cracks. We have a pretty high graduation rate. I think it's somewhere around 70% right now. So I think that is very reflective of the small class size, of the student-teacher ratio, and that you're a person in a classroom who's able to interact with your faculty members. Sarah, do you want to talk a little bit about your background?
Yeah, I'm a graduate of Elmhurst College, and then also a graduate of Michigan State University, and finally Colorado State University.
She's been in a lot of schools.
I've been in a lot of schools. And one of the things that I treasure about my time at Elmhurst College is the relationships with my faculty extended beyond graduation. And that's one of the things that can be challenging in an institution where you may have faculty that there's a high turnover rate for faculty. We have people who are here and who are supportive and can write letters of recommendation for you 2-3 years or more after graduation, because we're here for the students. It is student-centered faculty and organization.
Yeah, and that's what you're paying for in a lot of ways. And like I've said a couple different times, we're a liberal arts school, but we really like to emphasize the real world emphasis that, even within this program, where a communications program probably isn't the first thing one thinks of as a connected to real world, but she works really hard to make sure that it is, and that you develop a portfolio, that you get professional practice, or you work in a case study,
yes,
you work in a real organization, so that everything is very pertainable to some sense of reality, so that you're not just spinning your wheels, you're getting something really useful here in your education. And collaborative, so you get a lot of collaborative learning opportunities in class and outside of class. Like you were talking about that, going out and doing the what do you call it, the communication studies, nonverbal
communication scavenger hunt. Yeah.
Scavenger hunt.
Yeah, you gotta have one.
We do scavenger hunts. Well, why not come here? So admission stuff is pretty straightforward. That's me. I'm Tim Alberg. You can email me if you have questions about this program at albergt@elmhurst.edu. You can email Dr. Sarah Strong-Kays with specific questions about this program if you like. And application information can obviously be found at our office, the Office of Adult and Graduate Admission, which is one of the offices underneath the School for Professional Studies here. You can check out us online, which you probably already did since you're looking at this. But you can call us at 630-617-3300 or email us at owaga@elmhurst.edu, and we'll be able to get you an application packet or answer any other questions about your program or about these programs that we offer here. And real quick, what about financial aid and scholarships? we're not going to put the tuition on this because we want to be able to keep this up for a while. We change it every year. We're a private school. You can see that link right there to take you right to the financial aid page. We do have a number of scholarships available for transfer students here. And of course, we're a fully accredited college, so all of what you find with FAFSA should apply based on what you're eligible for. The transfer student scholarships are largely merit-based, and we're usually looking at about a 2.8 GPA or higher for those. So if you're in the 3.5 range, or if you are a member of Phi Theta Kappa at a community college, all of those things are honored here, and you should do quite well. But again, contact our office if you have more questions about that. So thank you, and like I said, if you have questions about the program or the admission process, there's our contact information if you haven't jotted it down. Of course, it's all on the website as well. You also probably would want to check the website for upcoming information sessions. We do one every Saturday, every semester, or not every Saturday, one Saturday every semester where we have our faculty, including Sarah here, to meet with interested students. So check the calendar to see if there's one coming up anytime soon. Otherwise, you can set up an individual appointment with myself. Again, Alberg T at elmhurst.edu. 630-617-3309 is my direct number. Thanks so much for taking the time out to join us, and we hope you have a good day.
Bye-bye.